All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Monday Night Live. We are going to get into a very interesting topic this evening, and that is looking at our brain and the power of our brain and what we may be doing on a daily basis that could be affecting it, or what it is that we should be doing to help to enhance its performance. And particularly, the brain is very complex, but we are focusing on the frontal lobe of the brain, that command center that does some of our very sophisticated work for us. Such as memory. A lot of folks these days are talking about losing their memory, especially as they age. They're not sure what is happening. And then it also impacts our behavior. Big people have behaviors too that are unbecoming. And then how you think, how you plan, how you problem solve, all of that we are going to be talking about. So we want to begin with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we ask for your presence to be with us even now as we discuss this important topic, another part of our bodies that you have provided to help us to be intelligent human beings. And we ask that all would be simple and clear to understand. This is our prayer in Jesus' name, amen. Right, so we're looking at the frontal lobe, that command center. And thank you for joining us. We do hope that you share this link with others and know that the session is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel where you are asked to like, subscribe, and follow. So here we are talking to you from the Pure Wellness Lifestyle Center in Trinidad. Focused this evening is on the frontal lobe. You see that little part of the brain just behind your forehead? It is very important, and people don't take care of their head. Sometimes you could physically hit your head. Sometimes you see like children, they get so annoyed and they want to bang their head on the floor, on the wall. Prevent them from doing that because they can cause some severe damage to themselves as at that time and even for their latter years. So in the brain, you have different sections called lobes. All right, so they're not arms, they're not legs, they're lobes, and they pretty much have, this is just coloring color, but it's a lot of gray matter in there, some of it pinkish, and we are looking at different parts, and we're focusing on the frontal. So all the other lobes, they have varied functions for the entire body or brain. If someone goes brain dead, then they're pretty much just there and like a vegetable, and then the body functions starts to decline and to shut down. Now, in 1848, take you way back in history, there was this man by the name of Phineas Gage, and he was a foreman on a railway road site where they were building a road for the rails and the trains to pass. And in so doing, they needed to explore mountainous material, rocks, and so forth to allow the passageway to make through. And they had a way in which they will dig hole, put some gunpowder, put some dirt, and then compact it. And when they did that, they will drop some fire there and it would just explode. And, the rock and spread it apart, and they can now lay their tracks for the railway. So it was pretty much by routine. They're doing this all the time. And what happens when you're doing something by routine, either you become an expert of it, and if you are distracted, you could simply miss a step, which is what happened. He was there hanging out with the guys and supporting and giving a helping hand. And they dug a hole, put the gunpowder in, but neglected to put the dirt over or sand over, and they took a steel rod to compact that, and it ignited, and it sent this 13.25 pound steel rod of 43 inches long shooting back up, and it went through Phineas his face. And look at it. It went up through there and up through his skull, and he fell down all in blood. People rushed to his aid, and they took him to the emergency room, and he got attended to. And the object was not lodged there anymore, and they contained the bleeding, and they just let him lay still and watch to see what would happen, thinking he would not make it, that he would die. But he did not. And he survived, and he lived to tell his story, but something changed within him. This steel rod went through his frontal lobe, and therefore that part of the brain, the tissue got removed, and with it went the Phineas that they knew. He was a husband, a father, a caring man, church-going man. He was caring, very cautious with people, treated folks nicely, would speak politely. Everybody would have loved to have him around. But after that incident, they wanted to run far away from him. He was so callous. He would speak harsh words. He would say mean things to people. The family didn't want, in fact, his wife and children left him. He drank alcohol nonstop. He couldn't hold his job anymore, so he was fired. He didn't want to hear anything about God. And a complete change in his character. His frontal lobe was now impaired, and that changed him for life. Now, this part of your brain, it's important. And as we discuss this evening, of course, as usual, please put your messages in the chat, and then you can ask the questions. You can raise your hands at any point or at the end to ask your questions. But as we discuss it, think about you. We could think about other people. I tell you, you might be thinking, maybe that person's frontal lobe is impaired, and that's why that person is behaving like X, Y, and Z, because I too had my own thoughts. But think about you as a means of preventing some of these negative things from happening to you, and what you can do to help yourselves. So what is the frontal lobe? We identified it's that foremost part of the brain, and it is situated right behind your forehead. It is responsible for functions such as decision making. You need to decide what you will do with your day. For problem solving, you have a drain in front of your home. How are you going? And it may be falling apart. How are you going to fix that? How are you going to, whatever problems you may have, financial issues, relationships, how are you going to solve that? Your frontal lobe. And for planning for now and planning ahead. When you think about life, we always think about the future. For example, you may save for a rainy day. Save today so that you can have when you need tomorrow. So we plan ahead all the time. Then for impulse control and emotional regulation, all of these are different aspects and needs and applications for your frontal lobe. So this is a very profound statement. And over the course of our Monday Night Lives, we would bring different types of mind, mental, brain topics. Okay, so we change up things over time, but at least every month we want to do a brain topic. But sickness of the mind prevails everywhere, 9/10 of the diseases from which men suffer have their foundation here. Isn't that amazing? 9/10 of the diseases from which men suffer have their foundation in the mind. Sometimes people are worried, they're concerned about something, and a weakness takes them over, that they feel so tired, so fatigued, they cannot even do the daily duties. They shut down. You shut down. Why? Because of what's going on in your mind. Your immune system lowers. You're getting sick frequently with the flu. Why? Because of what's going on in the mind. When the mind is disturbed, it's at the center of the man. But few realize the power that the mind has over the body. A great deal of the sickness which afflicts humanity has its origin in the mind and can only be cured by restoring the mind to health. And this evening, we're going to look at the frontal lobe and how we could restore that to health. Revelation 22:4 says, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be written where? In their foreheads. Where do you talk to God when you pray? In your mind. And the brain is the house, or what holds the mind, and what part of the brain holds that mind, that thinking, processing part? The frontal lobe. All right, so that part of decision making, we would see some more things that it would do. Jesus said, Philippians 2:5 says, let this mind be in you, which was also in whom? In Christ Jesus. All right, so I think it was Paul who was writing here. In the mind of Christ, we want it to be in us. And when that happens, then you find that your days would be easier. You know, when you get up in the morning and you pray and you spend time in the Word of God, your day is like so beautiful. It's easier. It's not challenged. You will have a happier disposition, and you find that you will be able to get through life and without the fussing and the fretting. So the frontal lobe is the seat of judgment, reasoning, intellect, your willpower. That's huge, because a lot of us need to have a strong willpower to move through some of the challenges in life. Your spirituality. Why would some people want to hear about God and others don't? Your morality, motor functions, character, trustworthiness, planning, higher order of thinking, impulse control, memory, spontaneity, social and sexual behavior, and relationships. All of those are governed by the frontal lobe. Do you know that animals have frontal lobes too? Oh yeah, they do. Imagine an ant, a tiny little thing like an ant. The birds, the butterflies, they know things, but the size of their frontal lobe is so tiny. But humans have a huge, big frontal lobe. In fact, it's like 33% of our brain. And the cats have about 3.5% of their brain is the frontal lobe, the dogs have, and then the chimpanzee 17. So when we talk about human beings being a higher order of intelligence out of creation, God has blessed you, you know, above all his other creatures. And therefore, we should be behaving like intelligent beings. You know, and some of these creatures are really smart, and they tend to think and act and be as compared to humans. Sometimes we wonder what's going on in their head, you know, where is their brain? So there can be different effects when, and different things can happen when our frontal lobe is compromised. The frontal lobe continues to develop for 30 years. That's very interesting, because by the time you're growing up, and in your teenage years, you have to study, you have to make decisions. In your 20s, a lot of folks make decisions in their 20s and not really some logical ones. Some of them, they make some logical decisions, but sometimes they don't. And we got to have a lot of grace and mercy and be long suffering with our youngsters because their frontal lobe is still developing. Sometimes folks would make lifelong decisions in their younger years. So not until they're about 30, then you find it's more fully developed and your thinking, your focus, your understanding, you can see it's more stable, more settled. If you can think about yourself, if you're over 30 and the thoughts and things that you pursued when you were younger as compared to when you were older, you would see that your intelligence improved. So it matures as the individual grows up. And when that frontal lobe is impaired, you find that there is impairment of moral principles, social impairment, the loss of love for family, that they're not concerned about their parents anymore because the frontal lobe is not functioning well. They have abused it. And lack of foresight, only seeing about here today and not about the future. Incapable of abstract reasoning, cannot interpret the proverbs. So like I mentioned earlier, say for a rainy day, they may take that literally. You mean when the rain is falling, we are saving for in the rainy season? No, so they cannot understand and interpret those proverbs. It's difficult for them. Diminished ability for mathematical understanding. And so they tend to, you find like simple things they would understand, and the big study in mathematics, it's difficult for them to understand. And loss of empathy, where you could be sharing some sad, devastating news with such people, and they're just like, watching you straight in the face, not, I'm sorry, empathizing with you, none of that. And then lack of restraint. They can be boastful, hostile, and aggressive. The story is told of a young woman where her frontal lobe, she needed to have a surgery done to it to remove a part of it. And before the surgery, they asked her, what would you do if you lost a watch that you had borrowed? And her response was, well, I would need to pay for the watch and buy one and return it. If I borrowed somebody's watch and I lost it, I would need to replace it. She had her surgery where, part of her frontal lobe was removed, and then she was asked the same question. What would you do if you borrowed someone's watch and you lost it? And she responded, I will just have to borrow another watch. And that seemed like the most intelligent thing to her. Her thinking was now altogether different. So the foresight for children, they and even big people tend to think about, they have money and they go to the supermarket and they just shop it all out. And they don't think about that they need to spend for travel, and that groceries may finish and they need to have for later on, or if an emergency take place that they need to save some. They just think about the present and nothing about planning ahead, no foresight. So we covered some of these. So there are some diseases that are linked to frontal lobe impairment, like mania, obsessive compulsive disorder, appetite increase. Have you known anyone who is just like eating without any constraint? And then you have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and ADHD. And then you have depression, which accounts for 60% of reduction of frontal lobe blood flow. So if the individuals who are depressed may very well have a decreased blood flow problem. The blood isn't flowing through to the frontal lobe as well as it should. And a lot of things could contribute to that, including, narrowed arteries and blood vessels to the brain. Therefore, you need to take care and watch your diet. So let's have a look at how do we take care of this frontal lobe. Yeah, someone is saying that thinking for that lady became more self-centered. Yeah, good observation. Good observation. Yeah, and then that's what happens to folks. Now, taking care of the frontal lobe, let's look at it. And what I would say is that we're going to show you some causes of or certain things that could impair your frontal lobe. And then at the same time, if we were to make changes, we could correct the frontal lobe impairment. All right, and so just pay attention here. Let's look at the diet, a healthy diet. This is how you can take care of your frontal lobe. But if you have an unhealthy diet, you could impair it. So number one, key that your brain needs will be omega-3 fatty acids. And omega-3 fatty acids is found in things like flaxseed, walnuts, and those are fats that are critical for brain health. When you think about walnuts, it's a closed handful, which for your daily intake can be just about 4 walnuts. So walnuts, omega-3 fatty acids, that's your medicine. And for you also have flaxseed. You can take your flaxseed that you buy in the supermarket, 2 tablespoons, you drop that in a coffee grinder and you blend it up, and that's what you're going to consume. Just put it on your food and consume that daily, and that's going to help to increase blood flow in your body. It also contains omega-3 fatty acids, so it's going to work really nice for the brain. Then you want antioxidants for your brain. You want to see that you get in some berries, leafy greens that contain antioxidants that help protect the brain cells. And so all of these nice healthful foods, think about when you're eating nutrients and getting all of this nutrition. Then your whole grains, such as oats and brown rice, millet, barley, all of those whole grains are quite helpful to your brain, and they tend to store energy in your brain, firing off good thoughts for you. And hydration is super important. So I would say, let's take a drink for that. So ensure that you're drinking enough water, keep hydrated, and that is going to help your brain. You know, the brain, it's needs to be heavily saturated in water, not juice, not tea, but you're looking for water. And it's like a sponge, and it needs to be really spongy and not hard. If you're dehydrated, then that brain tissue tends to be hardened. And as I say that, you know, sometimes when you were small, your mother would say, your head hard, you're hardened. Oh yeah, well, just drink some more water and it would clear all of that up. And therefore you see your behaviors and your thinking would be correct. So hydration is important. Drink a lot of water. In fact, at the center, I have my folks drinking like about 12 8-ounce glasses of water, aiming for that on a daily basis, at least having that amount. You can have more. Sugar tends to be something that affects our brain, and particularly the frontal lobe and the performance of our school children. When they're snacking and they're eating, consuming things with sugar, it takes about 45 to 75 minutes after blood sugar rises quickly to return to normal intellectual function. So I think about my school children who would be having their breaks, recess, lunchtime, and they go to the cafeteria and they're buying snacks, or they pull it from their lunch kits and it is sugary. When they get back in before the teacher and the teacher is trying to teach something of importance, 45 minutes. an hour and a quarter before they can really say, let me pay attention. By then, it's another break. So let's seek to get less sugar in our children. Well, how would you know what is less sugar? Take a teaspoon, fill it with sugar. That is equal to 4 grams of sugar. Okay, so 1 teaspoon of sugar, drop that into a glass of juice, and it's sweetening up your juice. That is 4 grams. You take 2 teaspoons, 3 teaspoons. I've seen people with coffee, coffee tastes bitter. And then they will put sugar and sugar and sugar and sugar to sweeten up. I saw someone at time put 9 teaspoons of sugar in the coffee to try to sweeten it. Imagine, that's 9 multiplied by 4, 36 grams of sugar. What is that doing to the brain? Just, impairing its function. So take this juice, for example, we like all these nice healthy juices. Read your labels. And right here, you would see sugar. And it says what? 23 grams. That means, how many teaspoons does it have? 6 fours? Yeah, at 24. So just like about 6 of your teaspoons of sugar in one of these little packets of the juice, in this particular brand of juice here. So read your labels, and you want to be able to see less sugar for your intake. Now another common one, let's look for the sugar. Come down the line here, sugar. It says that it is 8 grams of sugar. So that's just about 2 teaspoons in this juice. Sometimes people will pour that out in a glass and add more sugar because it's not sweet enough for them. But what are you doing? You're lowering your immune system, you're impairing your brain function, and you're going to do an exam. How are you going to get your work correct? You're going to have brain fog. And that's why folks could be forgetting, because the frontal lobe is just absorbing all of this sugar. Another combination of high fat in the diet, and when you combine that with sugar, this study says that high doses of fat and sugar, such as in fast foods, can be processed in the same way as nicotine, heroin, and other substances that become habit-forming for people. And that's why these things are addictive. High fat in the food, you fry these fries and then you have some soft drink. Oh, it tastes so good. You need to go back for more. And then you find that you're addicted to it. Okay, someone is commenting that some people say that they can exercise off the sugar before it does them harm. Is that so? Can you actually burn it off before it does you any harm? It's being processed. And it has to be processed first to get into your bloodstream, which will be stored as glycogen in your muscle cells, and it's what you're burning off. Yeah. So does it harm you before? Oh yeah, it's gonna get anywhere else in the body. Apart from your muscle cells, it can get anywhere else in your body. So it's a simple physiological process. How are you going to burn it off? Okay, it needs to get into your muscles and burn off. All right. So fish. I thought fish had omega-3 fatty acids. It does have omega-3 fatty acids. It has protein. Fish also has polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs, and that impairs fetal brain development, so the babies, and then it also decreases reading comprehension. It diminishes attention span, and it weakens memory. Oh, fishy fish. So all of this, are we going to be consuming these things knowing that it is affecting the brain, even from the unborn child all the way to adulthood? It doesn't stop. It's going to weaken your memory, your attention. Folks are talking to you, you don't remember things, you're not focused. You go to church, you can't say, that you remember what is being said when you come back because you weren't concentrating and focusing in the first place. So let us seek to make better choices. Oh, cheese. Well, let's have a look. Tryptamine that can be found in cheese and fish and sausages, spoiled chicken and other meat and seafood, they tend to alter the mind. So the thing is, in these items comes other stuff. There's this protein amino acid compound that tends to alter your mind, giving you nightmares, hallucination, can cause cancer, dementia. And tryptamine can be found in any of these animal foods and their byproducts. So are we going to make those choices? Why not have some nice grain, fruit, nuts, vegetables, leafy greens, and save ourselves a lot? And they have antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, and other minerals that's great for our brain. So all of that, grains, fruit, nuts, vegetables, all of them. Pine nut, almond nuts tends to increase the speed and the connectivity of our neurons, our brain cells. And then we have pecans, cashew nuts, and sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds. We also find tryptophan that you can get in black-eyed peas, pumpkin seeds, almonds, and avocado. Yeah, that is going to help your brain to just spark up nicely for you and help you with your thoughts and your planning. Walnuts, omega-3 in chia seeds, your leafy greens, almonds, and even bananas has a measure of it. Exercise is important. Aerobic exercise like walking, running, swimming tends to increase the flow of the blood in the brain. Remember, we talked about that there could be decreased blood flow in the brain. And if by 60%, that can lead to depression, then folks who are depressed need movement. They need to walk, they need to run, they need to swim, they need to be outdoors. And that's going to help to remove depression. It's going to help to send more blood to that frontal lobe. And all of a sudden, their outlook is brighter. They're not thinking of all suicidal thoughts and other things. So strength training helps to improve cognitive function and emotion regulation. When you lift some weights, you lift some things around the home, and then balance and coordination exercises, such as walking a straight line. When your frontal lobe is impaired, your gait, your step is impaired. You find that you're going to put your feet, one foot in front of the other. Some people literally trip themselves and fall because of what's going on in the brain, and they sort of miss with their walking. So just having a nice, sometimes you can look at somebody and their gait and it doesn't look pretty stable. Something is going on in the head. There's a study that was done and came out in 2021 where, in COVID time, everybody had to stay indoors and not move. And in some places, they were allowed to walk out in the street maybe one day a week. And what they found is that by the sedentary lifestyle being introduced, it affected the brain of a number of people. And therefore, they did this study to show that taking regular walks can change the brain structure. Because as folks stayed sitting in front of a screen, they're working, they're studying, then their brain was impaired. So as they started to move around, even the structure of the brain changed. The way in which it was shaped and how the cells formed together, all of that changed in addition to their thoughts. So the result showed, and this was done by a university. And so the results showed that our brain structure and mood improved when we spend time outdoors. So it's not just about walking indoors, but walk outdoors, you get even double benefit. This most likely also affects concentration, working memory, and the psyche as a whole. You know, back in the, if you will recall, I don't know if you ever said this or may have heard it or just even thought, I am so tired. I am going to step outside for some fresh air and take a walk. And when you do that, it sort of gets, give you new ideas and get rid of all the, tight mind and thinking and everything and the pressures that you may have felt simply by walking out. And outdoor in nature just changed everything for you. And so this particular medical center out in Ukraine actually said, the doctors here said that these findings provide neuroscientific support. So if you're looking for the scientific data that says for the treatment of mental disorders, doctors could prescribe a walk in the fresh air as part of the therapy, similar to what is customary for health cures. So whereas instead of medicating, a walk out in nature could do so much. That's medicine for your mind. And so if you're challenged with any of these issues here, then please try this. Just try it and be consistent at it, and it's going to be helpful to you. Now, the mind needs to be stimulated, and so we have puzzles and games that individuals may engage in just the focus and attention, learning new skills, picking up a new hobby, even learning a new language, reading diverse material, not just love stories. That is a trap. And that is a whole lot of fantasy. That's not going to be stimulating to the brain and have you thinking and be logical and support, give you ideas and so forth. Well, good constructive ideas for a number of different things. So you want diverse reading. It will help with your comprehension and critical thinking skills. Social support is important. You want reading upside down. Wow. Yeah, someone is suggesting read upside down. That could be challenging for the brain and really keep it stimulated. Good. So stay connected. Regular interaction with your friends and your family supports emotional well-being. You want to join clubs or groups that align with your interests to meet new people and to stay engaged. You need to socialize. You have family, you have friends, you have neighbors. Don't stay shut into your own corner. Get out. Sometimes individuals are afraid to get out. They're afraid to trust. They are afraid to love. They are afraid to engage because I may just get hurt. Well, that is part of life, unfortunately. But the gains can be so much more. You can engage with someone and have a good laugh, and that's medicine to your bone and to your health. You could do things together. You don't have to go through life alone. You can say, hey, come, we're going to the supermarket, and it's just simple things. Just have engaging, connecting with people around you, even just if it's a phone call, sharing yourself, and also it's good you would be receiving as well. Stress management, deep breathing exercises. You want to deep breathe, and that tends to calm the mind and reduce anxiety. And that's helpful on a day-by-day basis. Sometimes we could be going so much that we don't breathe well and you have low oxygen levels in the blood. That's not going to send your blood moving through your body freely. So you want to get a fresh air to oxygenate your blood. And then you have journaling, where you can write your thoughts and feelings and help process the emotions that you're having in your head. If you wrote it out, then you can get it out, and you can actually see that it can help you with your decision making. Dance like a wild beast, your ability. Oh, okay. Adequate sleep, consistent sleep schedule. Aim for 9 hours or 8 hours. Did I put 9? I think I meant to put 8. An extra one for good measure. But aim for 8 hours of sleep per night. You want to count 8 literal hours. It really makes a difference in your life. It helps you tremendously to feel energetic the next day, well rested. Your decision making is going to be phenomenal. Your brain needs rest, and especially that frontal lobe that's wired and going through the day, doing so many of these important technical tasks. When you get your 8 hours sleep at night, it tends to like clear, and I've seen it helps you to make better decisions. And so your sleep environment is important. Let's look at what makes a good sleep environment. Recipe for restful sleep. You need a quiet, dark, well-ventilated room. You need an empty stomach. At least your meal should be 4 hours before you sleep. 3 hours, maybe if it's simple fruit, before you sleep. You want a clear stomach. If you eat close to bedtime, you find like about 1 a.m. or so, your body will wake you up. It's because your liver is activated and doing work, and it tends to wake you up. Then physical activity during the day is important. It makes you tired at night. Some people are taking naps in the day and restful in the day and have trouble sleeping at night. Get physically active in the daylight hours. A regular schedule and a set bedtime and a set waking time, that gives you an opportunity to get your 8 hours of rest. So you big people need to have time to sleep. What is your bedtime? 9 o'clock, okay? So 9 to 5, that's the sleeping hours time, 9 to 5. Your 8 hours, you're good on schedule. And then a clear conscience, a mind at peace with God and with mankind, it's going to give you restful sleep. If you don't have peace with your fellow men, it worries you. It's going to keep you up at night. You're not going to get good sleep. So avoid harmful substances, alcohol, smoking, as well as vaping, and watch your caffeine. Too much caffeine can affect sleep and increase anxiety. Now, largely folks would say, let's limit the caffeine. I would say, let's eliminate the caffeine. You want to be safe and safer. So let's work on that caffeine, the tea, the coffee, the caffeinated beverages, the energy drinks. Let's not use them because they can be harmful to your frontal lobe. Alcohol. Remember, Phineas, after his frontal lobe was impaired, he resorted to drinking alcohol. And so alcohol can also impair the frontal lobe, just making the situation even worse. So it can damage the brain cells, and tobacco is linked to cognitive decline over time. The alcohol, so you lose brain cells, you have a lack of ability to think abstract thoughts, and then your the fetal brain development is impaired for life. So women who are pregnant and they drink, they could be impairing the baby's brain for a lifetime. Marijuana. Students showed defects in attention, memory, and learning even 24 hours after inhaling and smoking weed. That marijuana doesn't do well for your brain function. And then coffee, cocoa, caffeine, decreases your irritability. So the caffeine and cocoa, they tend to interfere with sleep. It can also cause seizures. I remember one time, working with someone who had seizures and having that conversation, refrain from drinking energy drinks. And because it can lead to seizures of individuals, caffeine, and then cancer. Folks are drinking coffee. I've seen this where they would drink coffee and during the day, morning, in the day, at night, whenever, and it can lead to bladder cancer. I know someone where that happened. Ovarian cancer, prostate, breast, pancreas, colon, and kidney cancer. Those are all connected to caffeine. And yes, cocoa, your chocolate, has caffeine properties in it. It's called theobromine. And that also can lead to cancer. It has cancer-causing agents in it. Chocolate and cocoa. So we tend to watch those things. In fact, even a woman, it causes the woman to have lumpy breasts. If you're drinking the chocolate teas and so forth, Ovaltine, Milo, Swiss Miss, and Nesquik, all of those tend to increase your risk for tumor growths and cancer. It causes heart palpitations and dangerous heart rhythms and premenstrual syndrome. So dangerous heart rhythm, your heart is out of rhythm and doesn't work well, and it can weaken your heart over time. Then caffeine and cocoa tends to stimulate your nerve cells in the brain, prevent adenosine, which is a toned down transmitter. So your brain is like overstimulated, running a rat race. It increases anxiety and even gossip. People who just take pleasure in talk. And psychosis, schizophrenia are some of the conditions that would be associated. It increases dopamine. You have that all well, feel good feeling, but then it depresses you after that feeling. And it creates addiction, a dependency on this. There are certain drugs that can impair the brain. And okay, so somebody is asking about here. I think. Right. Yep. So all of these should be better for better health. Eliminate alcohol, not just to limit it, but to eliminate it. It does do a number on the brain cells by damaging them. Okay, thanks. And then we have drugs, nicotine. As you have, we mentioned, it's a cigarette that doubles the risk for dementia and Alzheimer's, and it can impair the fetal brain function for life. You also have less capability of performing complex mental tasks when individuals use nicotine. Drugs that can affect the mind. This was quite interesting because there are certain medications that individuals may be on because they are unwell. And interestingly, it can have some impact on the brain. And such as asthma medication, blood pressure medication, beta blockers and calcium channel blockers, tranquilizers, and sleeping pills, anti-ulcer pills. So that's like for your stomach, anti-inflammatory drugs, and and as well as pain relievers and cold and allergy medications and antihistamines and decongestants. A lot of these things too also has caffeine in it that's going to affect the brain, and someone mentioned that caffeine can affect the heart in a real way. And as we said that, I had known of a young man where he drank the energy drinks, and people would do that, especially if they're in sports and for whatever, they need energy. And and multiple times I've seen where it affects the heart in a huge way. And especially this young man drank energy drink and went on the field playing football and fell down and died right there. And a young person in the 20s. And there was this other gentleman working two jobs and trying to stay awake using energy drinks, and his heart got so damaged, injured, that it required having heart surgery simply by drinking lots of these energy drinks, right? So looking back at this now, certain medication could affect your brain. So I went looking up for beta blockers, like some individuals who may be on high blood pressure medication for any heart-related issues, you would be prescribed beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, and you would take the medication, and it's going to help to alleviate your immediate situation. However, it comes with side effects. And so what else is it doing to your body? It can impair your frontal lobe. So atenolol and isbutanol and so forth. So here we see some beta blockers for fear prevention before dental surgery, where they were trying to calm people down so that they can have a better response in their surgery. And it showed that there was an impairment to the memory, and also that it helps with even preventing anxiety. So they were using it to help with getting the folks to be more calm and to be relaxed and so forth. But at the same time, it was causing an impairment in the memory. And then this other one, it's a well-known fact that some of the blood pressure medications individuals are on will affect their sleep. And I see this a lot, where individuals, how did you sleep? Not so good. Well, the medication that you're on is lowering melatonin, which is a hormone that gives you restful sleep at night. And if you have less melatonin, then you're not going to have that good quality deep sleep that you're looking for. And so it reduces melatonin, and therefore you find poor sleep quality, nightmares, or vivid dreams that they're having. And it's because of the medication. So is it doing something in the head to the brain? Yes, it is. And so just note that we're not saying don't take your medication, but at the same time, seek to live a healthier lifestyle. In fact, all of these medication in the write-up would tell you that it would work better if you had a good diet and your exercise. And it would even help you to get off your medication if you went on a good, healthy diet and you exercised. Regular checkups, medical screening tend to spot even when certain issues might be coming up, creeping up on you for having frontal lobe impairment. If you recognize and think that your memory isn't working well for you, and then your thoughts, your thinking, you have brain fog, you're forgetting, have a check and see what's going on with the brain. It can help you to arrest the problem from early. Maybe it needs more blood circulation in that area. And why is that happening? Maybe it is because of high cholesterol levels that now you would be able to address the cause. All right, so make sure that you go see and get your checkup. And then mental health support, seek professional help if you experience any situation like anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues, so that you don't stay in that state for long, because then you don't help yourself come out of the challenges. And it might be something that could be corrected. So if it is that you don't feel great, you're suspecting that maybe you have anxious or you have depression, have a talk with someone, seek to get that clinical diagnosis, and then you would be able to target the problem in a real way. And even if you were to come to me and I'll give you natural remedies for it, then you find that at least you would be focusing on the cause of your how you feel and how you behave and how irritable you are, and have answers for these kinds of things. But then we would work together to feed the mind with the good, healthy foods. Give the mind what it needs, that walking in the open air, or just bathing in the rain or whatever, all of those nice, happy things, and get the benefits. Now, finally, preventative measures. One of them is like protecting the head, physically the head. And such as biking, skiing, you can have falls and the head could be, you can hit the head. The elderly needs to be cautious that they don't trip and fall and hit the head. Some folks fall in the bathrooms and they hit the head. Apart from other injuries, the frontal lobe could be hit. And if you have any physical injury to the head, that part of the brain, then it can affect you. And when you're in the car, wear seat belts, because you find that accidents tends to throw the body forward, especially if you're in the front seat, and that head could hit the windshield. And or if you're behind, that head could hit the headrest in front of you. So wearing seat belts can help to protect you from any head injuries. There was this 4-year-old girl, and just to show and emphasize this point, that she was hit by a car and she suffered damage to both sides of her frontal lobe and exhibited depraved behavior that persisted through her adult life. She was only 4 years old at the time, but that caused her behaviors to be so compromised. Temper outbursts when frustrated, verbal and physical assault in an abrupt, unpredictable, and short-lived manner. So like having a short fuse, always flying off the handle, we would say. Sexual promiscuity from early teens. She had no sustained friendships, and that's another thing where people are not able to keep their friends. They always seem to throw them away, get rid of them, say mean things to them, and the people want to run away from you instead of running to you. Intermittent heavy user or alcohol, and use of marijuana. And then you have impulsively attempted suicide. She attempted suicide twice. So through a life, you could just see episodes of the effect of that frontal lobe injury. Then healthy lifestyle choices, it would be important. You want to have a routine in your life that tends to put more structure to your life and to give you purpose and focus. And that tends to keep your brain good. There's order in what you're doing. We're told that our God is a God of order. He loves things in an orderly way, and things are not just done haphazardly. So you want to have structure in your life and order in things that you do. That's going to help you to reduce stress and the very same things that you think you forget. Where did I rest my phone? If you have a habit to put your phone in a particular place and you make sure to do that, then, so I am never really looking for my glasses because it's always in the case when I take them off. And they wouldn't get sat on or anything because I have a habit. I will never leave them just thrown on the side. I'll always put them in the case. So when you do things like that, then that takes away the thinking and behind such actions, and you can move on to bigger things. Now, limiting screen time is very important. Individuals spend too much time on the phone in front of the television. Can the television impact your brain? Yes, it can in a big way. And they've known this way back since the invention of television, where television, just the way in which it is made, where you have You go to do in movies and they say snap scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and then they piece all of that together. So all of the changes in the different scenes tend to create a hypnotic effect on the brain. And you could be there. Children who watch their favorite TV shows after 2 or 3 minutes, they stayed almost glued to the TV, and there's this alpha wave pattern that takes place. They're not reacting. You could call them. They don't hear you. Things could be going on around them, and they wouldn't even budge because they are glued to that TV. It captures them. It captures their mind, and it has a hypnotic effect. So television put information in, and we don't react to it. Folks will be watching the news and they see all the gruesome things, or not even the news, the movies and the TV shows, and they see the killing and the cheating and the lying and everything. And there is no, they're not participating in it physically, but there's no emotion to it, that they abhor what they're seeing, that they detest what they're seeing. My hero is doing such, knocking down everybody, shooting up everybody in the place, and you're like, yes. What is that doing to you? It's changing up your thinking, and you become, you condone these kinds of behaviors, and your decision making is largely impaired, because what seemed to be detestable is now acceptable to you, and that plays itself out in your life, and in how you relate to things around you. So terrible scenes are depicted, but the viewer just shrugs them off, and you're not abhorred by what you see. Like, for example, I don't watch TV. I'm very picky and choosy, and if I happen to sit and watch something, I'm usually mad because I think I've wasted my time, and from these things. But I know, like sometimes, because you don't do that and you're not sensitized to those, gruesome acts and scenes, that when real things come before you, it really shocks the mind. And I would like hear a news and I'd be like, oh, literally, you would hear me say, what? Because my mind is not seasoned with these things on a daily basis. So when it comes to me now, it's like really horrific. And that, for individuals who watch these shows and so forth, that doesn't happen to them. And so they're more receptive and acceptable of certain things. So the brain weakens, the TV tend to weaken brain power. The viewer lose interest in reading. Folks don't read anymore. They prefer to be watching. The TV tends to advertise poor food choices, and folks tend to go after those things. Viewers spend more time in watching, and less activity tends to increase your weight because you're sitting there, couch potato. I literally had somebody one time fill out an assessment form for me, and do you exercise? No. And they put in brackets, I'm a couch potato. I'm like, oh no, don't, you really confess this. Let's change this. So viewers tend to daydream more, and their creativity is greatly reduced. And teachers can tell you that the children of today may not be as creative as of yesteryear, because they're not outdoors playing with marbles and little box cars and stones and all those things. In fact, there's a great study that talks about stones and sticks that tend to stimulate the mind when children play with these things, as opposed to, just sitting in front of television. And it trains the viewer to be non-reactive. Children are more prone to have bad attitudes. They're more irritable. Children tend to disrespect their parents and authority because of what they're seeing, and the behaviors and the attitudes of what they're seeing. And I dare say, I've even seen in some of our schools reading books, some of these same attitudes show up. And I was appalled the other day by one of the reading book of my nephew. I wanted to go into the school and talk to the teachers and the principal to drop that book. Look at what it is, the language that they're showing in here. So, it's all about the reading book, and they have the language structure about first person and the second person, and this one says something and respond. And there was so much rudeness in it. With not being courteous and kind, the child is talking to the mother. And so this thing is making its way into society, that it's becoming a norm. And so that you find to lie and be aggressive, that's a common thing. And then to increase violence in society, rock music and all of those things that just storms the brain. Teen sex begins earlier. You find addictions tend to be more rampant. It increases promiscuity. I mean, you're watching people in the nude, you see them in the nude, and nothing phases anybody anymore. And it increases extramarital affairs, poor judgment of true love. And that's quite dangerous, because if you want to know what true love is, you go to the movies and you choose a love movie, and it always has some drama to a climax and a happy ending, and you think that's all about life, and you make your decisions based on that. Wrong. So that's not that's like being a counselor for you. So you need to get real life experiences. Now, it helps you. TV tends to help individuals make bad decisions of life partners, because you're living in a fantasy world. So in summary, how do we take care of our frontal lobe? We want to look at a healthy diet, regularly exercise, have our mental stimulation, social interaction, watch your stress levels and manage that well, have adequate sleep, avoid harmful substances, have regular checkups, if things aren't doing well, and then have preventative measures in place, and to choose healthy lifestyle choices. All right, so with that, it brings us to an end of this presentation. We trust that it has been helpful to you, and that you would have gained and benefited in some form this evening from the information that we have shared. And I want to just open the floor now. If you have any contributions or questions, then now is your time to do so. Contributions or questions, yeah?
Yes, good night, doctor.
Good night.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, I am, loud and clear.
I'm very pleased that I started tonight. This is the first time I'm on the program. I'm in the center of education by one who is close to you.
Yes.
And I'm particularly intrigued with the topic of the frontal lobe. And in respect to its physical structure, when we read about the left side brain, the right side brain, is it that the frontal lobe is asymmetrically balanced in terms of a left side and a right side, or is it asymmetrical? And what are the implications in terms of damage to the right side lobe or the left side lobe of the frontal lobe? Could you clarify those areas for me, please?
Oh, that's very technical. But it does have the same left and right hemisphere. Yeah, and so I guess the other part of the question, what does the left side do? What does the right side do? But you see, the impairment basically it covers very much what you talked about: your willpower, seat of decision making, your planning, and so forth. As a combination, we look at it as a combination. So while it has its different sides, but together we look at it as being cohesive in terms of its function. That's driving that for you. It can get a little bit more technical to go on to identify either side, but the bottom line is Frontal lobe is the frontal lobe and not the parietal or the other places that has other types of functions. Okay. All right. I see someone wrote in the chat. Okay. All right, good. And yep. So any other questions?
Yes, doctor.
Mhm.
Very much for this informative lecture. How does autism and ADHD how do we connect it?
Yeah. So these kinds of conditions, like we saw one of the diseases or conditions, ADHD, all of those types of behavioral conditions with children, very much you go back to that brain that needs to be supported and to have that frontal lobe taken care of. And what we find is that when parents tend to protect by putting in some of these applications for their children, like not permitting them to watch TV. In fact, in the homes, it's better if you did not have the television. I mean, you have the little devices now, and that too needs to be managed. And then the diet, we looked at some of the foods that are going to help with proper brain function, removing the sugar, removing the dairy, removing the fish, all of those things which would impair. So the cheese. So if we got a diet right and put in within the brain what is needed, that omega-3 fatty acids, great not only for adults, but for children too. It does do well with their brain. It helps them to do better in their thinking, in their cognitive function, even better in their exams. And we have seen where children do well. I've had reports from parents, I've made changes. Just the other day, someone in some country she was in, and she talked about her child that had these kinds of erratic behaviors. And as she made changes to the diet and put structure within the child's day, that helped a lot. She could have seen a remarkable change. And that's what we would encourage individuals to do with these things. Sometimes they may be born with certain kinds of defects or have a predisposition, but then diet and lifestyle can make a huge impact for the better. Yeah. Okay. So any other question?
Yes, I have another question. And I believe this one will be my final question. Is the matter of mathematics, the learning of mathematics and or appreciation of mathematics and the role of the frontal lobe. You did mention that perhaps frontal lobe issues may be linked to the appreciation or learning of mathematics. I'm wondering if that is completely so, or is it because of the teaching of mathematics, especially in the formative years, is more or less the turn off. And I'm speaking as one who's been involved in mathematics, both as a professional and teaching and so on. So I think the role of the teacher in how they present any area in mathematics is key to an appreciation, since much of mathematical thought is initially abstract. And so we have to help students to think in the abstract by blending it with concrete things before they could begin to function effectively in the abstract realm. So I believe, and I need your clarification on this, that the teaching of mathematics is the key to the appreciation of mathematics, and not so much the frontal lobe as such, even though we read that The left brain is good at analytical stuff, and the right brain more as imaging and that kind of stuff. But my thesis is that how the mathematics is presented is really the key to the learning and understanding of mathematics. A good teacher should be able to inspire, all things being equal, students who want to learn this subject and perform excellently at it.
Mhm. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that contribution. I remember back in time in the days of doing your CSEC and other studies, you're always looking for a good math teacher. Yeah, always. Yeah. And that really makes an impact. But even I've seen like we showed some of those tryptophan foods that when you use them, your brain really sharpens up, You're able to think and do so many different things at one time because it's firing off, working well for you. So it's really helpful and excellent for individuals who are studying to eat those nice foods, the pumpkin seeds, the almond nuts and everything. That does a lot of good help.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Okay, question in the chat. If someone has lived for years and years going to bed late after midnight, but starts going to bed earlier consistently, will their memory become sharper if there is currently no signs of dementia? Definitely. The brain is pliable. And what we do, feed that brain tends to alter its structure. Remember, we looked at that scientific research that showed just walking in the open air tends to alter the structure of the brain. So whereas it could have been challenged in time past, now as you begin to make changes, watch individuals with dementia, those with Alzheimer's, you put them to walk, and as they walk, they increase the function and the feedback from the hippocampus that cause them to improve in their memory. In fact, we're told that the walking helps to make new brain cells. When folks at one point thought that brain cells were not replenishable, now they're finding out that it is, that you could grow new neurons and be able to form new memories. And not that when you're senior, you depend on those memories that went in the earlier years. So yes, there can be a change even with your sleep and getting your brain to work better for you. It's never too late with these things. When I see you make a change for the better today, it's like a turnaround heading in the right direction. All right, so yes, someone is asking about contacting. So I'm just gonna put in the chat here our website that would help you. Okay, so it's drnatalienash.com, and the email will be drnatalienash@gmail. Make it easy for you at gmail.com. Right, and there, yeah. So, okay, now the question, how do we relate to the frontal lobe to mental disorders? Yeah, mental disorders can be the frontal lobe impaired can be one of those things that can lead to mental disorders. As we showed, there were some identified some real mental health diseases or health challenges that resulted from that. And so as you make changes to help. So this evening, and this session has been recorded. So go back and look at it on YouTube. And you would be able to see again what can help you to treat and be kind to your frontal lobe and to help it to work better. I have seen, even with individuals who have been depressed, who have anxiety issues, who will just be crying all the time, when we start with giving them the healthy foods and these same foods that we talked to you about, the flaxseed, the walnut, the pumpkin seeds, the almond nuts, you make a blend of that, literally ground it and make it like a powder, and we give it to them breakfast and lunch. And last week we showed the listed items. So you can look at our session last week. And when you give, or the week before, sorry, that's the stress be gone part 2. When we give that to our individuals who are here at the center and incorporate that with open air activity, walking outdoors, we're in the pool and you're in water and you're in the sunlight and you're doing all of these things outdoors. And then you have prayer, you know, you have the interaction and the socialization and so forth. That just wiped away the cloud over them. Remarkably, it is so amazing that long sad faces are now brightened, that the voice is more cheerful, that people are laughing again, and they admit that I thought I'd lost it, that I couldn't laugh again. And within a few days, within 18, 17 days, there's total recovery. In 2 weeks, there is recovery from this thing. So it makes a difference. And you know, when we're doing it with them, I'm just praying and hoping that they cooperate, because you need to participate. You need to put yourself into the process. And as long as they do that, it's going to be helpful. Yeah. So what can cause seizures in young children? A lot of things. Most times it's something related to the brain. Okay, so someone is asking about our upcoming medical missionary training, and so I'm just going to share a couple announcements. Okay, so here we have our medical missionary training. Okay, somebody's cooking. All right, that's coming up in September. Whether you are in Trinidad or abroad, what we're working on this week and next week is to sort of videotape some of our sessions and then be able to share that with those who are abroad. So if you are not in Trinidad and you desire to be a part of our medical missionary training, talk to us and we would be happy to have you be a part of our class. It's very focused in terms of our topics and helping you to understand, you know, some of these issues, to be able to help yourself and to share with those in your community, in your churches, wherever you're at. And then we have practical. The thing is, here at the center, we're doing the practical Sundays, where we would be showing you the different forms of hydrotherapy. But now what we are doing, we're actually videotaping these hydrotherapy demonstrations. We videotape the food, you know, demonstrations and be able to share that with you so that you're not really missing out on anything. And therefore, you would be able to glean, you know, and benefit from what we're doing out here, even though you are remote. So that's one that's coming up. Let me share another announcement with you. So here we have our residential programs that we run at the center. Right now, we are in the midst of one, August 5th to 25th. Where individuals will come and they are here for 21 days, and some are coming for less periods in that mix, in that time frame, but it's where you can literally come and be a part of what of our residential program. from the time you wake up in the morning to the time we dismiss you at sunset, basically, we're doing activities together. So we'll have our therapeutic walks, our talk to you about, we have our educational lecture series that will be shared. We share things with individuals, helping them to understand, the different health issues and how to apply that to their particular health challenge, all of these natural remedies, how to apply it to their particular life. They would leave with a menu plan and outline and how they can do things better. When they go home, they're clear about what they're going to do, what they need to put out of their cupboards, what it is that their days need to look like, how to prepare their meals. So we have the food demonstrations going on. And when you come, we apply different detoxification remedies and so forth. We have the aqua exercises that's really good for the joints, those with joint issues. So we have upcoming sessions in October, November, and there's another few days in December. So do look out for that advertisement to come out. And there's another one, last flyer to share, that while we're running the long-term programs, we do have 1 or 2 spaces at times. So you need to talk to us and see if you can fit in for a 4 days. Sometimes people are not able to spend longer periods of time. They just want an introduction. This would be more for folks who are local to Trinidad. Or if you would like just a 4 days retreats, it's a little bit different from when we open up on a weekend, because people have come and just like for a weekend, what I call R&R, there is more about relaxation, and a massage in there too. But for the 4 days, you're literally participating in all of our activities that we're doing with a larger group. And that has been, a lot of folks have taken advantage of these offers. So have a talk with us and let us know what your interest might be. So those are what we have right now by way of announcements. And I do have some other, we do have some other programs that's coming up. I tell you, give you a sneak peek on September 15th, will be more focused type program that would run basically for the next 8 weeks. And there you have an opportunity that you can be a part of that to learn how to take care of yourself and your health. And I'm just going to put in the chat our WhatsApp group that you can join and be a part of. And here is where we will place announcements, and especially when we have that 8 weeks program, so targeting different aspects of health and literally giving you the tools to apply to your health and having the check-offs on those. We will be utilizing the WhatsApp group quite a lot by putting notifications in there. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull up the link for this. And again, note that our session has been recorded, and you will be able to go back to it it's going to be posted up on YouTube, and you will be able to go there and view the recording or even share with a friend. Okay. Let me just put this last item in the chat so that you can join our chat group. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance today, and we look forward to meeting with you next week. What's up? All right, there you go. Put the flyer in the chat so that I and others can share it. Okay, we can do that here. I think. Or if you join the WhatsApp group, I'm gonna put it in there. Okay. Yep, there you go. Was able to get that one. And then this one. A lot of times when folks come to the sessions, they would say, you know, I've heard about these health principles for all my life, but now I know how to apply it. Okay, so it really makes a difference, and it's quite helpful. It's practical, doable, and enjoyable at the same time. So may God richly bless you. We'd like to close off with a word of prayer as we begin. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for our discussion, and we pray that you continue to inspire us to cooperate with you, so that as we take care of this frontal lobe that you have blessed us with, that we can hear your voice even clearly, speaking to us. This is the way, walk ye in it, or whatever it is that you need to instruct us in the way in which we ought to live, pleasing you in all things. We ask that you bless us, that we have a good night's rest. And this is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, everyone, and do have a blessed night.